This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.
I'm Tom Hoppy, and I'm your host of the Most Painful Podcast. Thank you to the audience for the great feedback you've been providing to the show to make it better. Continue to write in. We'd like to hear from you. So chronic pain can impact sleep, and we've heard from experts that good quality sleep is important for your health. So if someone is suffering from chronic pain, what can they do to get better sleep? To talk to us today about this is Allison Gaudet, who's a physiotherapist, works with people who are suffering with chronic pain, is also the co-chair of the Veterans Advisory Council for Chronic Pain Center of Excellence. Allison, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So we're going to talk about sleep. Maybe we can start off by telling us what is the connection between sleep and chronic pain?
Absolutely. And again, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about this. There's so many good things about sleep. So let's even start there. There are good pillars of health, and I used to think sleep was one of them, along with eating and exercise and psychological health. But the more you dive into the sleep science research and more things are emerging and you hear these neuroscientists speak, the more we realize that sleep is truly the foundation of good health. Every single system in our body is enhanced with a good sleep, and every single system in our body is negatively affected with poor sleep, whether it's our cardiovascular system, our musculoskeletal system, neurologically, endocrine, literally heart, body, brain, metabolism, immune system. Sleep, it's low cost, and when you get a good sleep, it's hugely impactful to enhance all parts of our world. Sleep is the best stress release, trauma release, immune buster, hormone augmenter, and emotional stabilizer. It's brilliant for not only recovering the body systems, but enhancing things like motor control and cognitive function. It's been said that sleep is actually one of the greatest legal performance enhancing devices that people are neglecting. We can talk about the how and the why on the mechanisms around that. But really, sleep has a huge impact as a natural analgesic augmenter. It can help to manage pain. There are portions in our brain that are the pain centers. And there's portions in our brain that help coordinate and evaluate pain signals coming in. And they can fire signals off to help coordinate and reduce the pain. Well, when people are in pain, they don't sleep well. When you're in pain, we hurt more the next day after a poor night's sleep. What we're learning now is that those that are sleep deprived get kind of a multifaceted beating up of the pain system. More pain is let into the brain centers, and then there's a decrease in the function within those regions of the brain that help evaluate and coordinate those processes and act to reduce the pain. So ultimately when you're sleep deprived, there's an increase in pain sensitivity. There's more firing in the region where the body maps are that interpret the pain. And then they show that reduction in the region of the brain where the chemicals are produced that can help reduce the pain. So the natural analgesic centers that are in our brain that are an incredible function that we have are somewhat blocked, and we need to maximize them. So poor sleep can intensify that sensitivity, and more effect needs to be put on those. Those in chronic pain already have a dysregulation in the system, and then the poor sleep affects it.
So what is considered good sleep?
There was really a big push a couple of years ago on you need to get 7 to 9 hours of good quality, high quality sleep. And it almost ended up scaring more people. So I don't want to go into that part of it because 7 to 9 hours is the optimal, but they talk about the quantity and the quality of sleep. So those that suffer chronic pain, they were almost creating a scare tactic and an anxiety around, oh my gosh, I'm not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and now my health is going to be even more affected. And it was creating fear around it. So 7 to 9 hours, but good quality, deep sleep is kind of the gold standard, and what we should all try and strive for is kind of what's been accepted. There are variances in everybody's kind of physiology, but that's kind of where things look right now.
Because I've known people who are shift workers, and I was a shift worker myself once too, who kind of regulate, they stick to their meal times and all that kind of thing, but they don't have full 8 hours sleep, but they seem to do well, they function well, they're healthy. Is that just a one-off, or is that, like you said, is quality more important than quantity? If you're getting 5 hours of good sleep, is that better than 8 hours of interrupted sleep?
What a lot of the literature shows is that anything 6 hours or less, there is an ultimate decrease in physiological performance, cognitive ability, comparatively to those getting 7 to 9 hours. So they may be functioning well, but they could be doing better. So it's not a one-off. There's a very, very low percentage of humans that can actually function on 5 hours of sleep, and they have this alteration in a gene. But truthfully, there's decreases in overall physical performance, cognitive performance. I believe the stat is something like if you are 20 hours awake, you're at the cognitive capacity of someone who is legally intoxicated. So you don't know that you're not functioning at the level you should be or how to optimize it.
So when we're talking chronic pain, and you've talked about how sleep can impact the body, well, how does it impact chronic pain itself?
When we have chronic pain, our nervous system is a little bit more ramped up. Then you add the sleep deprivation on it, and whether it's a couple hours or it's broken or we didn't get into the deep sleeps, like the deep levels of sleep, the system can be a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more hyper aware already. And like I said, there's more information coming in. They looked at those MRI machines that light up the brain, so the functional MRIs, and where those pain centers are more lit up on the days they were sleep deprived than those that weren't. And they're already over firing in those that suffer chronic pain, because we know that there is a centrally mediated component. We know that the nervous system is a little bit more on guard with those suffering chronic pain.
So with things like mindfulness or some kind of meditation or breathing, is that, I mean, the intent of that is to calm the nervous system, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah.
And then that would probably help in sleep. So are those some of the strategies to help someone who's suffering with chronic pain?
Especially those that are having a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, they talk about non-sleep deep rest. And so different strategies like mindfulness, like those meditation apps, deep breathing strategies, those can be things that you can add to your attempt on getting the 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And again, they talk about sleep efficiency and trying to be, if you're in bed for 8 hours, can 85-ish% of the time be sleeping or at least in your non-sleep deep rest. So trying to maximize and using those strategies, those are some of them that they talk about on how to maximize your sleep. There are others.
Because I could imagine someone who is suffering with chronic pain, has, sore joints or muscles or whatever, is probably waking up during the night when they're moving.
Absolutely.
Now, if they fall back to sleep, is that considered part of the quality of sleep, or is it all disrupted now because they just woke up once or twice?
No, the waking up throughout the night is quite normal. The sleep cycle is about 90 minutes. You go through the stages of non-rapid eye movement and then rapid eye movement sleep, and those cycle every 90 minutes. And so as long as we're getting, those 90-minute bouts in, waking up for the 10 or 15 minutes, if you have to go to the washroom, grab some water, go back to sleep, it's where those that suffer and then are staying awake for that 2 to 3 hours, if they're having those kind of nights, that's where the non-sleep deep rest kind of protocols might be really helpful.
Because I would think, I mean, a lot of people probably have times where they're not sleeping through the night. It could be stress, could be pain. But what you're saying, if it's cumulative, if it happens night after night after night after night, that's where the problem lies.
Absolutely. And if they have to, there's some studies of getting naps throughout the day and helping to augment that. Some cultures will sleep kind of 6.5 hours and then do a 2.5 hour kind of other time throughout the day. And that seems to still be a pretty nice strategy.
Because I've heard from other experts that saying that, if you nap more than 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that it actually can throw the cycle off. And I've noticed that myself too. Sometimes when you have a big lunch, you got nothing going on, you have a nap for an hour, you feel worse than you did when you were 15 minutes sleeping. I think for somebody out there, and that's what we try to do on this show, is what's the evidence? Because there is a lot of information floating around, and what is right? Is it 15 minutes? Is it an hour for a nap?
You're gonna hear everybody's opinion on certain things with these scenarios. And what we know the body is trying to create a sleep debt throughout the day. So there's kind of this sleep pressure that builds up as your day goes. So you wake up, you're full of, or you're hopefully in a really nice awake state. You don't have this one chemical building up, but as your day goes, this chemical called adenosine is building up as the day goes. If you sleep too much throughout the day and you don't have enough sleep pressure built up for the end of the day, you're not going to have a great sleep. Those 90-minute cycles is kind of where they're saying, so anywhere like 15 minutes is fine, 40 minutes is fine. Do what your body needs as long as you can still fall asleep and stay asleep at night. If you're sleeping so much throughout the day that affects your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep, because then you've kind of cleared the system of that adenosine and then you're not able to fall asleep. That's kind of where you can get yourself into trouble.
So if somebody who's struggling with chronic pain, and of course the psychology side of it as well, we talked about mindfulness, but what are some other strategies that one could use that would help them? If they're suffering from pain, sore joints or muscles or any other injuries, and of course there's the psychosocial side of it as well.
Absolutely. So there are some really neat simple things that we can do, and I always try to promote the lifestyle things or the actions first before we get into any talk about diet and supplements and medications and different things. So one of the biggest things is first, just be regular with your timing, regular with your when you go to sleep, regular when you wake up in the morning. If you can keep a regular schedule, our bodies have these natural 24-hour-ish clocks, and they're called your circadian rhythm, and that can really help to start that system off right, or kind of getting you into that. A cold, dark room is another really brilliant strategy. So it's something that we can control. We can't control everything. We can't control how the body's reacting to stress. We can't control every aspect, but we can turn off all the lights at nighttime. We can have a cooler room. They talk about 1 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit of getting the body temperature decreased in order to have a better night's sleep. So having that come down. Another strategy is at nighttime, in the evening, start turning off the overhead lights. The more you can start making your house a little bit more kind of conducive to that dusky, kind of having the fireplace or side lamps, but the overhead bright lights starting to diminish that. Different things like avoiding caffeine kind of 8 to 10 hours before bedtime, because it really does stay in your system for a lot longer than we expect. They talk about a half-life with it, and it's quite long. So there are some people that say, oh, I can have a cup of coffee and then go to bed an hour or two later. It does affect how deep their sleep is. More science shows that than not. And then different strategies of, if you are a napper, limiting it to that 90 minutes or less throughout the day. Don't nap, your 4 to 5 hours if you're not able to fall asleep. And then one of the bigger strategies that I meant to mention first is viewing sunlight early in the day. If you can get your eyes exposed to natural sunlight, so the sun is up in the morning, get outside without sunglasses on and exposing your eyes to sun, and then later in the afternoon doing the same thing, that seems to have a profound effect on your ability to fall asleep, because you're starting the system off a little bit more optimally.
And we talk about diet as well. I've heard I should stop eating 3 hours before going to bed. I guess somehow the digestion or is affecting metabolism.
Yeah, the metabolism is flying to the point of the temperature. When you eat, your body's metabolism starts. That creates a level of heat in your system, and that starts increasing your body temperature. So it's not helping anything. Now, conversely, if you go to bed and too hungry, that can also affect your quality of sleep. So for your system, you need to find that kind of perfect thing where you don't go to bed, kind of the Goldilocks effect, not too hungry, not too full, because it really can affect the heat of your system. They talk about even something as simple as having a hot shower or a hot bath before you go to bed. And it seems counterintuitive, because you think, well, isn't that heating my system up? But actually what it's doing is opening up all the blood vessels, shunting the blood kind of away to the extremities, and it's actually cooling down the system when you get out, because it's your body's way of cooling the system down. So people sleep really well having a hot shower or hot bath before they go to bed.
And I was going to ask you that because I know you're a big supporter of the whole cold water therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought cold water would be the best way, but I guess that's for the morning when you get up, right?
That's for the morning when you get up. Actually, if you do the cold before you go to bed, you are firing up that nervous system and winding it all up. There is some talk in the health fitness world that they do the contrast before bed, but really, as it stands, and things are always changing and always evolving, but as it stands, as I understand it, the heat before bed ultimately cool the body temperature via the shunting of the blood is what's supported.
And I guess the same would go for electronics. We're always hearing about that, is to cut them out. I think it's an hour or something before bed, and it's because of the blue light or that you're getting off the screens.
Truthfully, any light really does have a big effect on the system. You'll hear a lot about the darkness hormone, so melatonin, and we need the body producing that. It produces it naturally, but it's initiated via the darkness. And we live in a world where light pollution is all over, and there's outside light, and there's so much light with our screens. There's even some not so supportive literature of like the light up reading devices, how people are getting less deep sleep when they're using the light up reading devices versus reading a book off of paper, because you can have that backlight is affecting the eyes, and there's a delay in the releasing of that dark hormone, like the melatonin.
I guess what I'm hearing from you is the best thing is try all the natural, try your diet, your mindfulness, having a regular routine, going to bed, and like not eating too late. Of course, a good diet as well with that, and your electronics. But if someone's still struggling with pain,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could do all that.
Yeah.
What are some other options? If they go to bed and they have a sore back, or they have a sore neck, or whatever it may be, what are some other things that they could do if they wanted to stay on the natural side? We'll leave medication out of this right now, but if we wanted to stick with something natural, what are some other options?
The strategies that hopefully those that are suffering chronic pain have things in their tool belt that they know help them. So whether it's cold packs or hot packs, whether it's Epsom salts bath, there is some literature. You have to have the baths at the salinity of the Dead Sea to really have an effect on the pain. So it's the Costco size things of the Epsom salts. It's like a third of one of those in a thing in a bath. The movement strategies, when you're in pain, trying to stay in bed for 8 hours can be just detrimental. So getting up, maybe doing a few, of the yoga moves that they might have as their just movement strategies to help get out of that position can be really helpful. Knowing your body and knowing what you respond to, you have to listen to those strategies. Again, there's no hard and fast rule. And that's what I really wanted to make sure. There can be people saying you need 8 hours of sleep, but I don't want that to cause anxiety. Using the principles and the paradigms around the information and then making it fit your situation, because every day is going to be different. How you slept the day before, what the life stresses were, you can't control those things, but there are some things you can control, like the movement, like the coolness in the room, like the darkness in the room. The things you can control, take control of those first.
Yeah, and I think that's talking to a number of vets and myself as well, is trying to do the natural route is always the best, I think. And everybody's different. They do their own thing. But it seems like from what I'm hearing, if you take care of a lot of the lifestyle, implement some of the tools like meditation, yoga, stretching, whatever, and you can go a long way without reaching out for medication, perhaps. Everybody's different, but perhaps would you agree with that? Is that one of the biggest battles?
100%. It takes work, right? So people want the hacks, people want the supplements or the medication or the this and the that, and those are the things that add 1 or 2%. But these big lifestyle things, they take work and they take planning. But as it stands right now, they have the biggest impact and the longest lasting effects.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Allison. That's I think is informative. I learned something out of that. And sleep's important. So anything we can do to make it better is always helpful. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So for our audience, if you have any feedback about the show or you want more information on chronic pain, you can visit our website at veteranschronicpain.ca. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Chronic Pain COE, and on Instagram at chronicpain_COE. Allison, once again, thank you for being on the show. Great information, great talk, and I'm sure we could always talk more about it.
Absolutely. It's an absolute privilege. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being on. For everybody else, for our audience, stay safe and keep the hope alive. Thank you.
The Most Painful Podcast
is produced for the Chronic Pain Center of Excellence by Story Studio Network and Eye Contact Productions.